Looking now, so we've got a presentation from Mario on advancing broadband network service creation through standardization and industry collaboration. Your marketing department worked really hard on that one, yeah?
I don't know how I came to that title.
So over to you, Mario. Take it on.
So thank you. Hello, everybody. So my name is Mario Kind. I'm with Deutsche Telekom. I'm there with a department which is called Group Technology, and we are the overarching people who are working on new ideas, trying to understand what's going on, and then helping our network operations in the different countries where DT has to get it into the network and analyzing that thing. So yeah, the title is quite long. That's a bit awkward. I should have changed it, but anyhow, I'm speaking a little bit about the iceberg. So the thing that we have seen, and it seems the iceberg is still existing outside, it's not yet eaten, but I will present some of the challenges and motivations why the iceberg is there, what is coming with this, what is the thing that we in the analysis and assessment area are doing. I will present two of the ideas which are going on here in the broadband forum, which we believe is making a difference and that we are working on. And finally, something where I try to give an idea what are also options for the future from a completely different perspective than what you have heard until now about ponds, etc. So, okay, magenta. The challenges. There are lots of different ones. So sorry, staying here. Roughly, say most of them are somewhat known. Others are not known. It's always quite difficult when you see the whole list. What are the challenges we're going? And I will try to introduce some of them, not potentially not all. But let's start with the customer. So also, the last presentation was about how do we get to 50 gig PON bandwidth increases slowly but steadily. We have new services coming up which might demand very, very high bandwidths. But already today we have all problems. We have always a challenge, but bandwidth is already today very much fluctuating. We have quite some time nothing that people do, surfing a bit on the internet, watching videos. And when suddenly they're coming these big things like video game updates, PlayStation video game updates. Not sure if anybody knows that, but they are in the tens of gigabytes sometimes. And if they are released to a couple of 100,000 people on your network, it's a bit of stress. The other thing, so we have more of these devices demanding different services, but what is also driving in the past years more and more the design and how we architect everything is the diversity of customer requirements and diversity of service that we are getting, especially in the enterprise area where you're seeing all these new SD-WAN services popping up, very much different services, and not one SD-WAN service, not like you have for just one internet service design. No, it's SD-WAN from that vendor, there's an SD-WAN from it's deployed in one way or the other, and you have to deal with this. That's what's really requested. We see new security services popping up. So we are, for example, working on a security service which is coming directly out of a network, avoiding all the different things. So very much liked in morning to see that security is becoming also more and more important to customers, and we have to work somehow on this to getting it into. And then all the other things, so network APIs, more on-demand stuff, asking, well, can we have flows which are lasting just a couple of minutes or for a specific download, and trying to put that in a huge network with a couple of million of customers is quite a demand. So this is one of the big blocks which challenges us in the design. The other one is on the ecosystem, and we also have heard it already in some of the presentations. So this the transition to fiber is going on. So we see more and more deployment, and it's not just that there's now today one or two networks in a country. It's very localized one. So in Germany, it's very much fragmented, if you want to say so. And we typically providing the network are now faced with a thing that we have to buy it somewhere, but we are other operators who somehow have to offer it in one or the other way, but it's also digestible for us. Not only the data plane, but also control plane, and last but not least, all these nasty things on BSS level that you have to consider. So That is one another ecosystem thing which is going on. The other end, what we see and where we are looking always after, and is trying to see how we can keep a sustainable supply chain. Lately, I would say we have some global political challenges somehow. Not hope my publication department would subscribe to that. Yeah, and it makes some headaches if you're relying on certain countries or on certain productions somewhere, on certain providers, and if you don't know if maybe there's some tensions which erupt into you break your relationships and need to find something else and design something maybe else. And with these also, we have a thing, this investment into different things we are very closely monitoring. So at the moment, everything goes into AI. It's like it is. Before it was data centers, now it's AI. And you're seeing, it's about for a long time now, we're merchants of merchant silicon. But there's a lots of drive into it. And we see that there's lots of technology improvements that we would like analyze if this makes sense for us and if we can leverage this as well and maybe also having potentially something for a sustainable supply chain, but not necessarily. It's always very much depending on what we do. The other thing, technology-wise, we are having we are working always to try to get clean and good architectures that we can employ, not only on one operation that we have, but also on the multiple operations that Deutsche Telekom has. So it's 10 networks around in Europe. And we really would love to have, we try to unite it, but we also can help in the decision phase. And also in the end, also having the industry united behind consistent, clean, stringent architectures with good reference points, interfaces, descriptions, so that this IT iceberg gets at least a little bit simpler in the end. And then technology-wise, I mean, you have seen in the latest presentation, AI, it's everywhere around. Everybody works on it. Autonomous operations is coming. Intent-based operations is coming. We have to deliver somewhere data. That's clear that it's going to happen. The question is how it's going to happen. Data collection for sure. When and how we go with the autonomous operation, will be a very interesting task to be part of it, to implement it in the networks. But yeah, one of the big challenges that we have as well. From operations perspective, that's also most probably something that already was voiced, especially from the iceberg. We have a lot of legacy and vendor-specific IT still. It's fragmented over generation, it's fragmented over supply chain diversity. There are lots of different reasons to have it. We have also, that's maybe a DT's challenge, but it's most probably also a challenge for the bigger operators who have multiple countries in operation. We have a variety of business models where some own networks, others own other networks, some have combinations of networks. So this makes also a challenge to find something which really helps you to design something which works for more than one, and you don't have to fragment every solution. Yeah, and then I think when I've written this, I sense that, well, there's something missing, and that is, that was a wrong button. Okay, back. I sense that there is something special missing. What did I do? Here he is. And this is our elephant. That's also that our design is making it always extremely challenging. That's our CFO, who has just some limited budget, and is always, we have to find some ways and assess the different solution, which one makes sense. Are there some which are too costly? Are there some which fit into it? Or what's the future? So, yeah, all this together, as said, it makes us challenges, and we are trying to put these always into a logical way, trying to not only organize our work, but also trying to steer where and how, what we can do. And I've written down 4 pillars that I believe, just to bring it down to 4, but there's much more behind in the end. But these 4 are the things that we are driven by. So one is serve your customer needs and be ready for these new things. Try to understand them, try to make up your mind. What is coming? How is it coming? How many are coming and what would it mean? Then the second important thing is always design this architecture with having not a very detailed specific deployment, but something which tries to give you at least some flexibility in switching things and enabling new services platform to be attached, giving you somehow migration options, even if there has to be change something, and doing the design in a way that we also, for example, can attach the different providers. So, but touching that in a second. And then the other thing is follow this money. Try to understand why, where it is invested. What does this mean? Where does it take us? And is it something that we can consider? And last but not least, the thing why we are also here, it's collaboration. Collaborate with key players, collaborate with innovative player, join a work on standards like finding common sense in BBF, finding things in the design things. And last but not least, we are also quite active in trying to drive open source software. So it's not speaking about this one, but we are, for example, some of the big supporters of the Volta framework for the PON systems. So in the end, what we are doing is we are also, beside the collaborations, we are doing a lot of looking into standardization, trying to learn what's going on, trying to understand what's going on, and trying also, last but not least, to influence it in a way that we believe it is the right one. We are in many, so BBF is the one. We are also in ITOT, we are in TM Forum, we are going for Linux Foundation for open source developments. We are part of FSUN for all the PON developments, etc., etc. And this is just a few. There's much more when we are doing and trying to put these together. So that's basically somehow explaining where we want to go. I have now chosen 3 examples, what we believe is going to be important and what we are going to support quite heavily. It's not about PONs. I was assuming there's enough talk about this, what's coming up, what's on strategy, what's the features. I want to highlight 2 from BBF perspective, 2 totally different things. And one is the subscriber session steering framework. It's going under the name the Working Text 474 or later Technical Report 474. And we believe in that this is going to enable us the flexibility from the course granular flexibility that we need to get subscribers between platforms, providers delivered in the right way. So the idea in very brief is that our customers, we are taking the customer as he comes, and then we are bringing them wherever he is. Also in the sense that this is enabled later by autonomous operation or closed loops or whatever we do, but that this is going into a level of full automation. The different partners or network internal platforms are many. So bit classical ones on the right side, layer 2 bitstream access, maybe a bit of a European problem, but a very important one. It's very much mandated by regulation. The predecessor was L3 BSA, but still in place. Another one which is a thing, and if a customer, for example, comes and they detect that he's from a different network, that's the way we use subscriber session steering and steering to this specific provider, according to whatever BSS OSS agreements. That's all what we need to do. The other thing that we also believe is that this is helping us in the internal operation, be it in fabric design, like we are doing in Access for the Zero or for the classical BGP, reaching there. We have designs, we have other services. So for example, fixed IP is a very challenging task, especially in Germany, where we have a couple tens of millions of customers, and then you have to fiddle out who gets a fixed IP, and then you should keep it. So that's where we are using, for example, VLNSs. I mentioned we are going to have security services where we are steering a whole customer to the security service, secure his traffic, and then provide him secured internet access also, and protecting him from the other end. So that's one of the service, and for sure also the business customers, classical L2, L3 VPN, as they are aware. That's another thing. Beside this very simple idea of steering it, there's more what we want to do. It should be quality enabled steering, supporting SLAs, etc. We want to have it orchestrated for future autonomous operation, and yeah. So we are believing that this also fits into other BBF frameworks, and that's one. there's one which is under discussion. That's my second thing from the Broadband Forum that we are after. And that is the Cloud SEO in 2.0. So that's an ongoing work item. There exists a first version of the Cloud SEO, which is called Technical Report 384. Yeah. And it's currently revised. 384, well, it was in its time. It needs now some adoptions because there are lots of new ideas, technologies coming around. That's why adjusting to new normal. We see that there are lots of cloud-inspired technologies, more DevOps, more integration of subscriber session steering, integration of network automation intelligence, software-driven designs. And the other thing that we are back then to our processes, it really hit a nerve. We want to run it in a more cloud native like operation and process thing that it's, we have the new tools out there are all more or less coming from the cloud area. We are having one of the things on the first slide that's not explained. For example, we have problem to finding enough replacement engineers. Our engineers are getting older and older, and it's very hard to replace all of them. And in the ways they all get trained on today, not only anymore on the Cisco Academy programs, but in US universities, it's now AWS certification or some Google certification and all this stuff. So it's a different starting point in operations, but it's good. And we think we can use that. And if it's going there, let's try to use it. We have a thing, Cloud SEO. We hope using it that we get a new kind of integrated reference architecture with interfaces and reference points and all everything defined, well, defined to a certain extent that we really can make use of it. There are lots of other technical reports out there which are then detailing all the details with a subsequent detail level and interface specifications, so there's more to come. Yeah, and then last but not least, one of the big updates that should come with Cloud SEO 2.0 is moving or adding containerized virtualization support to VM-based support. So that's really one of the things which is overtaken by time. Very short, the architecture looks from a high level very simple. There is an end-to-end service orchestration which has multiple domains under it. One is the Cloud SEO 2.0 domain. There is an localized orchestrator who takes care of the domains which are specific to broadband network access. And then we have specific management and control, which are the sometimes already mentioned here SDN management and control entities. And last but not least, below, there are network functions, either physically or virtually deployed in one or the other way. And that's it very much from a high level. There are much more details, but it's hard to bring this over in 20 minutes and put it somewhere in. Feel free to either check the BBF folders or come ask me or ask me when I can point you to the documents and status where we are. So that's one of these two big BBF topics that we believe will make a difference in the future, and we are highly supportive on driving this forward. And then there's the things which are outside, and that is one of the things that really drives us since a couple of years, and that is the hardware ecosystem and understanding where does it go to, what can we use of that, and is there something which could change somehow the way what we operate or make a difference in sustainability, maybe in cost, maybe in other things. As I said, that it's pretty difficult, especially for me, as I'm somehow supporting 10 different fixed access markets, which differ from 30-something million customers down to a couple of 100,000. You also have to decide which is the right solution in finding them. We cannot deploy ASICs with 10 terabit or something for 100,000 customers. It doesn't make too much sense, but there are other options. And as said, we are evaluating them down the path. What's notable? Well, basics are the ones that, especially the left side, that's well-known suppliers, or Nokia, Juniper, etc., which provide their systems very good work. There are the merchant silicon stuff from data center designs who work as well, have lots of variants, lots of suppliers of software stacks, not so much telco grade in most terms, but also there are telco grade variants that we are looking into. There is this novel thing in the middle, these FPGAs, which are coming in, for example, in server variants as NPUs or DPUs, or some call them even IPU, which are quite powerful. Also, one of our options, and when there's more the either classical side on the right side, we're using CPUs for analysis. I guess the most typical one is x86 based servers. But there are also RISC variants like ARM support for networking chips out there, and we are really looking into that one, trying to understand what is possible. Where can we maybe use of them? Is it maybe sometimes it's service creation, access networks, but sometimes it's for something else as well usable. Yeah. Saying that, I would close with one more practical thing, so it makes sense. We have recently looked again into x86 chipsets, tried to understand where are we at the moment. We collaborated with Intel and one of our suppliers that we have in our networks with this variant already, with 5x9 networks, and checked these so-called Intel Beach, not City platform. It's a server-based system with dual socket Intel Xeons, quite powerful, with 144 cores, each one of them, lots of memory, lots of cards. And what we normally do is, when we really just try to test them out, we take a very simplified approach from operations networks, but which has a decent complexity, in this case the German one, with at least QoS enabled and then supporting that one. That's one of the challenges that we typically have with chipsets to get this in. And when emulating the customers with the respective QoS expectations and testing platform, we compare the typical values here to just get at least to an understanding if the hardware is capable, and later, if it's good, we go to and analyze software. So results, as usually was a bit tricky, but in the end, we came very close to line speed of the cards. We are up to 900 gig in one direction, supporting QoS. So this is something which is more than reasonable for 32K customers today, and would be quite okay for deployment in the future for some specific things. So with this, I want to close just my talk on a bit how we approach it with a very strange name. We have 3 minutes left, so this might mean 1 or 2 questions.
Yeah, you did well. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, any questions for Mario? There we go. Yeah. You're presenting next. Okay. Any questions for Mario? Is that a question? I've got one for you, because Deutsche Telekom, let's be honest, have been one of the biggest proponents for network disaggregation and virtualization for some years.
Yeah.
Did COVID speed up your decision or slow down your deployment?
I have to look in my back. There's the designer of everything and the responsible person for the whole thing.
Both.
I would say, okay, that's good, because I would have answered neither. Neither, no. So the deployment, yeah, very challenging. I mean, but it's more the nature of how you work together. From the standardization perspective, where I'm more working in, so I was running something which was called OpenBNG in the Telekom infrastructure project, and unfortunately, this was more or less killed by COVID. We left the collaborative spirit, which was, and then lots of colleagues from other operators were dedicated to new projects, and last but not least, we had to close it last month. Very sad, after a couple of years of hard work trying to analyze this and getting understanding together, but in the end,
we'd welcome it back into the BBF. Okay, let's have that conversation outside, not in front of everyone else. Any other questions for Mario? Oh,
I had one quick one. Just make sure I heard what you said. Did you, when you were talking about the different types of processors, did you say NPUs like neural processing units, or did I mishear you?
NPUs like?
Neural processing units?
No.
Okay, I didn't.
No.
Okay,
No.
I misheard. So I do that all the time. Thanks, Mario.
Okay.
great. Round of applause for Mario.
Yeah.